to episode 31 of Harmonious World, which is something of a follow-up to episode 16, because that one as well I spoke to composer William Susman. And you've just heard Aria, which is the first track on his new album, A Quiet Madness. We'll be talking more about that track and the rest of the album in our interview. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to some of the music to start, and we'll have more later.
Good morning. How are you?
Hi, Bill. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. How's it going?
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me again.
My pleasure.
So, I absolutely love this album.
Thank you.
It's amazing. And A Quiet Madness, which is, I think we're all kind of silently screaming the whole time at the moment.
Right. The album is sort of a place where both insanity and solace can coexist in some weird harmony.
Well, I was going to say, isn't it weird that all of this stuff was written years ago? Not years, but a few years ago.
Right. Everything was written between 2006 and 2013.
And yet it feels like it was written now.
Oh, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Maybe that says something about me. But the project was already set in motion before the pandemic. But for me, music is not only what I do, but it can be an escape. And so it was just a joy, to work on this project during this time of this strange passage of time spent in self-isolation.
How did you come to the selection of music? Because they're very different, and they interweave. There's a very nice progression between the tracks and things. So how did you select the tracks, and then how did you choose how to arrange them within the album?
So the pieces that I selected were Zydeco Madness, an accordion solo, and 7 scenes for 4 flutes, and a duo for violin and piano called Aria. And then I also had 3 of my quiet rhythms that had been recorded by Francesco Di Fiore. And so these were pieces that I had been wanting to release for a while. And I thought that by creating a combination of solo and duo pieces, it would create an effective album and an interesting listen for people. And then I interspersed these pieces with these sort of like piano interludes. So you have a violin and piano duo, then you have a solo piano piece, Quiet Rhythms number 1. Then you have a flute quartet. Then you have another solo piano piece, Quiet Rhythms number 5. Then you have Zydeco Madness, which is a completely different texture and timbre. It's an accordion solo. And then the album winds up with another piano solo, Quiet Rhythms number 7.
And because, as you say, they are all very different. The violin and piano at the start, and then obviously you've got the 3 piano solo pieces with then the flute and the accordion. Those the duet violin and piano, is that taken from an opera score or something? Did I read?
Yeah, that piece is adapted from an opera in progress. The opera is called Fordlandia, and it's about Henry Ford and the family life and drama between he and his son Edsel, and the struggle for power and control of Ford Motor Company that ultimately at the end of his life is handed over to his wife Clara and his daughter-in-law Eleanor after the death of Edsel. Basically, the 2 women get together, very strong women, and say, if you want to ever see your grandchildren again, we're taking over and we're cleaning house. And they got rid of some very corrupt people at the top. And it's really a spectacular story. So I took a theme from there and used that in parts of this violin and piano solo, and that's where it gets its name, aria. Yeah, the order of the album, though, is really going from a serene and calm sound to something by the end of the sixth track, which is very forceful and loud. So the album starts soft, and it has an arc to it, and that's why you hear things sort of progress the way they are, and that's why I chose the order of the pieces on the album.
Yeah, that's interesting, because there is something that switches in the 7 scenes for 4 flutes. There's something, it becomes slightly manic. I don't know how you can be slightly manic, but that's what it feels like, where the 4 flutes, and they were all recorded by the one flute player and multi-tracked, is that right?
Yes. Patricia Zuber, she recorded all 4 parts. The piece was originally written for flute quartet and premiered by 4 different flutists. So it was a commission, and she was the lead on this consortium. And it was performed in New York City by 3 players from the Met Opera, herself, Manon Curry, and Dennis Buryakov, and then 1 player from the New York City Opera, Bart Feller. And this was back in 2011. I don't quite remember when that premiere was. It was at a place called Symphony Space. And with this recording, we went into a studio in New York, and John Kilgore did an amazing job of multi-tracking Pat on all 4 parts. So it has the effect of being in a concert space with 4 different flutists, through the way that John balanced the flutes and panned them, and just created this amazing ambience. So I'm really happy with the way that recording turned out. John did a fabulous job.
While I've been editing this, I thought that would be a nice spot to include an extract from 7 Scenes for 4 Flutes by William Susman. So here's a short clip of it. You enjoyed that. Now it's back to the interview. You are almost sitting in the middle of a concert hall, and the 4 flautists arranged on the stage, and you're getting the sound in that way. It's very interesting.
Yeah, some parts of it are really cool, where you can hear the flutists bouncing around from the left to the right, or right to left. With headphones, it's really obvious as well.
Yeah, and I have to say, Zydeco Madness is just a stunning piece, isn't it? And that is where the manic gets a little bit sort of controlled, out of control.
Yeah, that Zydeco Madness, it was my response to these tragic events surrounding Hurricane Katrina. And I had lived in New Orleans for a year and a half, many, many years ago. So I remember the rains and the floods. I can remember walking down streets with 2-3 feet of water. Things just wouldn't rain. And so when I saw the news reports, it was just tragic. And so this was my response. It's disjunctive. The piece is agitated. It's episodic. It just jump cuts from one event to the next, like you'd see in a news report.
And here we have an extract from Zydeco Madness. So that was a brief extract from Zydeco Madness, and there's something very cinematic about that accordion piece. And now we're going back into the interview. So the piano, then the three pieces, the quiet rhythms that intersperse, were all performed by
Francesco Di Fiore.
Oh yeah, Francesco Di Fiore. Yeah, the Italian.
So
he
is. What's great about this album is that I have people from different cultures and different parts of the world. Getting back to Zydeco Madness, Stas Vanglevski, he is Moldovan, and he studied buying accordion in Moscow at the conservatory. Buying is this large button accordion. And Francesco, he is Sicilian. We met in Rome many years ago. He is also a fabulous composer, as well as just a great pianist. And he's performed my music for many years, along with his wife, who is a brilliant video artist. And so they create these wonderful videos and abstractions, and they'll project them while he plays live. So for example, Quiet Rhythms #1, you can watch one of Valeria's videos online, and you can see how she created this video to the music. I didn't, in film music, typically you create underscore to visuals that already exist. In this case, she took the music and created visuals specifically for the music.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and what's incredible about it is that some of the visuals that she used, she shows these piano strings on the inside of the keyboard, and she mirrors them, and it gives you sort of a old cinematic effect from like the 20s or 30s, some of these experimental silent films that you'd see like by Rene Clair. And if you look at that mirror effect of the strings, I compared it once to the way that the notes look on the page of the score. And it was astounding what she had created. It looked like a visualization of the music. I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, and there's something about the technology that not only allows that to happen, but almost encourages it to happen now.
Right. Yeah, she can, with her technology, with the way that video technology is, she can also create experimental films and do all kinds of effects far easier than in the past. That's true.
Right. One of the things I like about this album is that because it's a collection of recordings from another time that just are terribly relevant now, but it's not an album that has been produced to then be part of a tour. I mean, I know we can't tour at the moment anyway, but it feels like it's a very deliberate collection of pieces of music rather than, right, I'm going to produce this album and then we're going to, when we can go back on tour, we're going to be able to take it out. And then, because you couldn't reproduce this on stage very easily.
You're right. I mean, it could be, but it'd be pretty expensive to bring all these musicians along.
Yeah, exactly.
The one piece that would be very difficult to tour with would be the 7 scenes for 4 flutes. And I've actually thought about having Pat play it solo and then have 3 recorded parts playing along with her, coming out through loudspeakers. So that could be done. It's not unheard of. Stas has performed these pieces live, and Karen and I performed aria for violin and piano live as well in New York at a venue many years ago.
Yeah, and individually, the 3 quiet rhythms would work beautifully together, but you wouldn't have them interspersed with these other things because the logistics of the sound and the musicians and all of that stuff would just be bonkers, wouldn't it?
It could. I mean, it could be. I mean, what you're stating is right. To see somebody, coming on playing a piece, then 2 people get off the stage. The pianist walks on, plays. He takes a bow, walks off the stage. Then the flutist comes on.
Yeah.
Right. That would look a little strange.
Yeah, but that's what I think I like about this album, that it's an album that works as an album rather than thinking about it as
a concert, right?
Yeah,
right, rather than as a concert. Yeah. It could look and sound very disjunct as a live performance.
Yeah,
I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, almost like those children's concerts you go to where there's kind of a lot of shuffling around of music stands and things because there's different ensembles, and then suddenly there's somebody else. It's just
right.
The stagecraft becomes distracting.
Sure, I've been to the Metropolitan Opera where the stagecraft is distracting too. And they spend millions of dollars on it.
Absolutely. And there are times, aren't there? I mean, I think opera is that's particularly true of opera, that sometimes they seem to spend so much and there's so much time in the stage design that actually you're looking to see which bit is going to pop up or go down or turn round next rather than concentrating on the action.
Yeah. It can definitely pull you out of the action, out of the drama, and you're just focusing on the technology on the stage, or you're hearing some giant contraption squeaking during a pianissimo.
Indeed. So how has the last few months of lockdown been for you? Because we spoke, 3 or 4 months ago, but how has it been, and how was Christmas? How was New Year?
They were all quiet. Everything was very quiet. It's frustrating. I feel very fortunate for where I live. That I have easy access to food. A lot of people are out there struggling. And so I'm just very grateful, to live in a community where people are generally agreeable with each other, and stores are open, and life is quiet, but life goes on.
Yeah. So plans for the future, do you have any? Have you sort of started making any bookings? I mean, have you been asked to make bookings yet?
The weird thing is during this process, there's been a couple performances of my music. One at the very beginning, I would say just before the lockdown in March of last year. A great pianist named Vanessa Wagner and a singer-songwriter, French singer-songwriter named Arthur H. or Ash, performed my music along with other pieces from an album of hers in Paris at the Théâtre au Châtelet, and that was very exciting. You can see that performance online. It was all recorded, and then Stas performed this solo accordion piece along with some other pieces at a small theater in Wisconsin, in upstate Wisconsin, place called the World of Accordion Museum. And he's performing another piece of mine coming up in June. So what they do is they have a smaller audience come in, and everybody is separated. They've been giving concerts up there, and they also videotape them or live stream them. So he's going to be performing another piece of mine called Three Different Keyboards, and that's going to be for accordion, piano, and marimba.
Oh.
And that's a piece that I wrote a few years back. And he also gave the premiere of that piece in Chicago a while back. So that's going on. And as far as other performances coming up, I'm not aware. I mean, I'm just aware of all the cancellations that happened in the past year.
I know.
You know, if people are doing performances, then it's kind of like this, where they do it in conjunction with the management of the theater, the presenter, and they really strategically try to organize it in a way where everybody is distanced. In this venue up in Superior, Wisconsin, it's actually an old church that was renovated into a concert hall. So the ceilings are high. There's a lot of space. People feel comfortable being separated out, and it looked like it was pretty successful. And they live stream it. So the audience that they don't pick up live, they'll get through the internet.
Right. And I guess that's probably where we're going to be for the next few months anyway. You know, sort of those socially distanced small audiences in big venues, right, and then everybody else watching from home.
Right. I would think so. I mean, I haven't even gotten my vaccine yet. You know, right. Here in the U.S., it's first responders and people over 65, people that are compromised in some way, you know, essential workers. So it'll be at least 3 months before things start opening up.
Yeah.
As far as just getting a vaccine, and so for concerts, who knows?
It feels like it's been a slog, and it would be nice to have some light on the horizon, but I don't know. As you say, the vaccine's taking its time to come round to all of us, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. Have you had yours yet?
No, I'm because I'm just under 60. I'm 58, so I think that I'm probably in the kind of the next batch, but that could easily be a month away at least.
Sure.
But we'll see. I'm quite a solitary person anyway, so I'm not that bothered by it. But there are times when I just yearn for face to face, and obviously concerts. You know, live music is just it feels like a hole inside me that needs filling with that immediacy, and that the sense there's a dynamism about live music that you don't even get on live streaming.
Right. Yeah. There's a dynamism about live music. There's a dynamism just about going to a movie theater, even
Yeah,
though the movies aren't live, so to speak, but just having that community or communal experience
yeah.
with others. Going to plays is like going to live
Oh,
music. Going to theater, just going into a museum again
yeah.
is an experience that I miss as well. Going out to restaurants and not feeling paranoid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
So
we're still at the place where we can have takeaways but not eat in,
right,
and which I think actually most of the Western world is. I think over in sort of Asia, they seem to be much more back to some sort of normal. But I think for most of us, it's you can get a takeaway. Well, I'm at the point now where it's not. I've realised that it's not about the food. I mean, sometimes it's about the food, but it's actually about the experience of going and sitting with friends and eating food and drinking and talking and
right, right. No, it certainly is. A friend of mine projects movies on his garage wall, so we'll go over there and we'll do, instead of a drive-in, we call it a walk-in. So we do a walk-in movie on Tuesday nights, and lately it's been a little too cold to do it. So we've been watching movies. Um, we've been simul watching, and then
ah,
we'll turn on FaceTime, and we'll gab about the movie as we're watching it.
right.
So it's sort of a communal experience, but we're not together.
Yeah, at least
That's
there's
fun.
some sense of
Yeah,
sharing the experience. Yeah.
yeah. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. We have to we have to we have to work around what we have to work around at the moment, don't we? So we just got to
Yeah,
get on with
yeah.
it.
All
So
right.
thank you so much for your time, Bill. I really appreciate it.
Sure, sure. How's the podcast been going? I mean, are you getting are people?
I'm
I've been listening to many of the other ones that you've done since our first. Is it getting a good response? Are you
it
are you
Yeah,
getting
it
a lot of
really
listens?
is. Yeah,
Good.
I'm getting quite a few, and it's going up every episode. I'm getting more, which is really nice. And I've interviewed some great people,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've been very fortunate that they're they're around. It's been great, and I can do it when it suits them. So it's all sorts of times of the day and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's good, and people are starting to listen and feedback on social media and
Right,
things. So it's
right,
great.
right. Well, great talking with you.
And you too. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
okay. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. Well, that was the edited highlights of our conversation, which actually went on for a very long time. It was amazing, and it was so generous of him to give me his time, but also to allow me to play some of his music. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and the extracts I've been able to play, and I'm going to play out with Quiet Rhythms #1, which is the second track on A Quiet Madness, and I think this is my favourite track. So please enjoy this. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation and many others of my amazing guests here on Harmonious World. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.